Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. We extend a special welcome to our visitors this morning. We're very happy that you've joined us, and we'd love to get to know more about you after the service. If you haven't already, we invite you to stop by the newcomer table in Robinson Lounge so that we can add you to our e-list and get you any information that you'd like about our congregation. After worship today, we have a fellowship potluck brunch. It'll be in the Founders Room, where you'll make friends and enjoy a great meal, and your contributions for the brunch will go toward the sound panel project in that very Founders Room. That's right after worship. Also after worship, there is a team leader meeting for the spring sale. That'll be right here in Channing Hall. That location has moved around a bit, but it'll be here in Channing Hall. So if you're a team leader or would like to help with that massive May outreach project, please swing by Channing and connect with the spring sale leaders here. And speaking of the spring sale, raffle tickets are already available after the service. You can support that outreach event and try to win a prize by purchasing your raffle tickets today. Also after the service, Carol Haig and Meg Cox will be leading an information session downstairs about voter engagement in the democratic process by introducing a nonpartisan group that focuses on holding person-to-person values-based conversations. That'll be in the lower lounge of the building. And it's a busy day. Also for newcomers in the congregation, there'll be a meet and greet gathering later on from 3 to 5 p.m. at a member's home in Princeton today, 3 to 5 p.m. If you'd like to learn more, just stop by that welcome table and we'll get that information to you. Next week, there are two wonderful options for your post-service engagement. One is a workshop titled Embodied Boundaries, offered by our Racial Justice Task Force. It'll be led by Dr. Natalie Edmond, author of Mindful Race Talk, who preached here last year. She returns to UU Princeton for a 90-minute experiential workshop that will reflect on how culture, race, and systems of oppression shape our relationship to belonging. And also next Sunday, the program All About UU Princeton is from noon to 2 p.m. in Foz Theater. You can join the Leadership Development and Nominating Committee for an engaging presentation that offers an inside look at UU Princeton's history, leadership, worship life, social justice work, and the many programs that our congregation brings together. All are welcome at All About UU Princeton next week at noon. So much happening here at UU Princeton, including our ongoing annual giving drive. To talk for a moment about our annual stewardship campaign, May Himadan.
Right. So consider for a moment what your week looks like. Notifications, right? From the moment we wake up, the world is perpetually informing us of something urgent. There's the news, which feels like a daily dose of anxiety. Then there are emails, errands, obligations. Your attention is sent in a million directions, or at least mine is. And then there is Sunday morning. I walk through these doors, still carrying some of all that, but then something here begins to work on me. There's handbells and pianists and singing. There are faces I recognize, people who've sat with me week after week. There are reflections that leave me thinking for days, and children's stories I still remember from last year. And there is, for 1 hour, maybe the only hour in the whole long week, an invitation to lay aside the urgent issues and take up the ones that matter. Someone a few weeks ago described this congregation as an island in a stormy sea. I think that's right. Storms, that the world produces in abundance. What it does not produce, at least not without deliberate and costly effort, is a place that gives you reprieve from the errands and the attention suckers. What we have here is a practice of stopping, of keeping, a Sabbath. That is what this congregation and this community have meant to me. I found UU after being tuned into the news and being wrapped up in my work and finding myself more and more cynical about our world and finding less reason for hope. Through the Sunday services, conversations with you, various ministries, Chalice Circle, I have found more moments of quietude, more moments of wonder and awe. I still read the news in the morning and you know what's in it. But I come here, and I remember that news and my work is not the whole story. Reverend Bill talks about gratitude or simplicity, and then we get together afterwards and we share a brunch and trade stories about our lives. In short, when I came, I expected to find a philosophy, and I did, and it helped. And as it turns out, I also found friends, and that ended up mattering at least as much. And so I want to ask you, plainly, if this congregation has meant something to you, like it has for me, say so with your pledge. Today is the last occasion we will have to ask you for this campaign. So if you have not pledged, do so now. Immediately after this service, there are pledge cards to the right as you exit. So if you are new to this, give what you are able, and know that it matters. If you gave last year, consider giving a little bit more. This island does not sustain itself. It exists because we choose it, and we keep choosing it. Today is one of those choosing moments. Thank you.
With adapted words from Brand Lennox, we join together and light this chalice in solidarity as a covenanted people who are drawn together by the promise of connection and the mysterious pull of the unanswerable. As seekers, wanderers, appreciators of nature, connoisseurs of curiosity, and creators of connection, our paths have converged. And now please join me in our unison affirmation in your order of service. Look, witness the world at play, at rest, at wonder, at joy. Yes, at work, and yes, at worry, but laughing too, dancing. There's music in the breeze. There's beauty in the light. There's peace in the night.
Good morning, everyone. Last week, many of us recognized the Easter holiday, and for a brief moment this morning, I want to jump back much earlier to another memorable moment in the Bible when Eve stands in the Garden of Eden before the tree of knowledge of good and evil, tempted by the serpent to take a bite of its delicious, irresistible fruit. That story tells me something important about the human condition, that even when we have everything we need at our fingertips, we humans still find ourselves hungering for more. And that even when we know some things are not good for us, we often find it difficult to resist reaching for them anyway. It's that truth that I want to bring to mind this morning as we acknowledge the end of our new and growing congregational tradition of Fast for Earth. Now, for those of you who are new today, I'll remind all of those who are not new today that Fast for Earth takes place during the 40 days of Lent. This year it was March 18th, and it ended on April 2nd. And during this time, the Earth Ministry and our Conscious Consumer group extends an invitation to challenge our congregation and each individual to gently alter one or more consumer habits for the 40 days of Lent. And this collective challenge is a way of nudging ourselves to become better stewards of the earth in ways that support climate health, conservation, human and animal well-being, and our own lives. The tradition allows us to confront some of that innate hunger and temptation with intention, at least for a short while. The story of Eve and the apple reminds us also that we are free to make choices, for better and for worse. And I hope that Fast for Earth can inspire us to make more choices for the better. So now I just want to quickly recognize everyone who participated in this year's Fast for Earth in any way, whether you completed a challenge or supported someone who did, whether you shared the idea with someone. or simply opened your heart to consider what it might be like to do that next year. So please, whether it felt easy or difficult, whether you felt you succeeded or not, please raise your hand up high if you did anything with Fast for Earth this year. Okay, thank you. Now I want you to bring that hand across your opposite shoulder and give yourself a few pats on the back, okay? And maybe if there's someone next to you who's done something, you can pat them on the back too. So this practice does not need to be confined to the 40 days. The goal is not perfection. Change rarely happens all at once. Transformation is a process, as we all know, and it's one that we can undertake together. There is a simple truth. Vicki Campbell, who you all know is very passionate about changing our ways in some places, there's a simple truth that the constant dripping wears away a stone. So small changes sustained over time can shape something lasting. Every honest effort matters, every step forward counts. So please remember how in this community we support one another in the never-ending quest to live out our values more fully. Earth Ministry and Conscious Consumers thanks you very much for your effort and your interest. And until next year, or you can start today, keep going. Be well. Thank you.
Our meditation this morning is from the pen of Thich Nhat Hanh, a late Buddhist leader. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become fully ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being, common to us and to all living things. Evoking a sense of great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion toward ourselves and toward all living things. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to one another. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and of the sufferings that are going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. And here in this shared silence, we offer these, the prayers and meditations of our hearts. And may the light of love be known in each heart this day and always. Amen.
I love the phrase, "You never know." Usually when it is said, there's a lighthearted tone. There's something underneath it that tickles us and almost makes us want to chuckle. It's a phrase that can also be a sentence all by itself. Most of the time at the end of this phrase, there is a meeting of the minds of the individuals who are a part of the conversation. And yet it can start an internal dialogue too that can go on and on and on. When we say you never know, there's also a sense of hope after it. Hope that something you do know, something that you could imagine, is really possible. The phrase seems to indicate reflection, perhaps some surprise or even awe. It may mark some cognitive dissonance that may cause us to tussle with some belief or some idea. It may plant the seed of curiosity. At the same time, the phrase may cause to rise within us a sense of hesitancy or fear or caution. What are some things that we never know about? Sometimes, most of the time, we never know what a person is going through, what challenges, what heartaches, what physical or emotional challenges they may be experiencing. We never know what tomorrow may bring, or any second or moment after the present. We never know what may come about as a result of our words or our actions. So, my brother is a veteran. He fought in Desert Storm. At that time, I was in college. One time, he was able to call me while he was out in the field, and I could hear bombs exploding in the background. I was extremely fearful for his safety. I had a friend in college who was in the same position as me, and she said she just tries not to think about it. Not to think about it was really not a part of my playbook. I had to do something with my thoughts and feelings, and so I decided to make a schedule of sending my brother care packages. I sent him snacks the first time. I knew he loved Chips Ahoy chocolate chip cookies, so I always included those in the package. At some point, I started sending books, usually books that I had read for class. I didn't have money to go buy books. So one day I sent him a care package with snacks and the autobiography of Malcolm X. I tried to send at least one book at a time. Eventually the war ended and my brother did not re-enlist, but he spent some time in Saudi Arabia before coming home. By the time my brother came home to Birmingham, we quickly learned that he had converted from Christianity to Islam. One day he asked me to go to the mosque with him, and I did so without hesitation. When we arrived, my brother introduced me to the imam and said, "This is my sister Walencia. She is the reason I converted to Islam." I thought to myself, who? But then my brother went on to explain that I had sent him the autobiography of Malcolm X while he was serving in the war. I never expected any response from my brother to the care packages I had sent, and I had no idea whether he actually had time to read the books inside them. In the autobiography of Malcolm X, for any of you who haven't read the book or seen the movie, Malcolm X was Malcolm Little and raised in a Christian home, and later became a member of the Nation of Islam, taking on the name Malcolm X and becoming a civil rights activist. Ultimately, he became a Muslim and became known as El Hajj Malik el-Shabazz. While I was proud of my brother for exploring another faith and making his own decision, I had no idea he was going around telling people that I was the reason he had converted to Islam. I never saw myself as being the reason for anyone doing anything. I had merely sent my brother a care package with snacks and a good book. But you never know. In 2024, I retired from practicing law and came to Princeton Theological Seminary to continue the theological education that I had started during the pandemic. One of my friends from college was eager to come visit me while she was traveling for work nearby. She too was a lawyer and had quite a great deal of responsibility in her position in the private sector. When she came to visit, it was just like old times. She commended me for being the first one to retire in our friend group. A short time after she left, she asked me to write a letter of recommendation on her behalf for an application to graduate school. She had decided to get a master's in the mental health field, building off the undergraduate degree in psychology from college. Well, a few months ago, I got a call from my friend. She was elated to share that she had been accepted into the program and that she would soon retire similarly in the next few months. When I answered her call, she was just so jovial and elated. She said she had to call me first because I had inspired her to explore what she wanted for the next chapter of her life. Of course, I had no idea I was inspiring anyone, but apparently I was. This was a huge you never know moment for me. as I thought my decision was just about me. You never know can open a world of wonder within us and in others. So if we're able to show kindness, we should. If we're able to share a little bit of what is going on in our lives, we should. And while it might be awkward or seem risky, we should give it a try, because you never know.
A summer or two ago, I was at the shore looking at the signage when I saw the instruction for what to do if you get caught in a riptide. A riptide is that often small but powerful area in the water where the current is moving away from the shore. Most of the waves are pushing you toward the sand, but the riptide is a small area where the current is instead pushing you toward England or whatever is on the other side of the ocean. They can be easy to see from the shore, although sometimes not. It depends on the conditions and strength of the riptide. Regardless, it's easy to absent-mindedly find yourself in one once you're in the water. There may be no riptide in one spot, but 5 feet over there's a strong one that you've swum or drifted into. You can really tell when that happens because no amount of swimming toward the shore seems to move you closer to the shore, only further away. You're swimming against the current, which only the very strongest of swimmers have even a shot at overcoming. And even then, there are always some currents stronger than the strongest swimmer, and someone might need a rescue. I grew up going to the ocean and watching lifeguards rescue people, usually visitors in the summer who were unfamiliar with the ocean. The lifeguards would see someone struggling or in danger. They would stand up on their lifeguard stand, blow their whistle to alert everyone that something was wrong, and then they would pull down the umbrella that they had over the stand that protected them from the sun. I would learn that this was how they signaled to the other lifeguards that a rescue was happening. Then one of the other lifeguards would call it in on a walkie-talkie, and before long, more lifeguards would arrive in a pickup truck or an ATV. Meanwhile, that first lifeguard would have, fast as lightning, jumped off the stand, grabbed their bright orange flotation thing, and ran into the water, often diving under the waves to get to the person as quickly as possible. Once those other lifeguards arrived, one of them would usually jump in as well, while the others would monitor things from the shore. And usually that was it. The person would be brought in and things would return to normal. Although if the rescue happened further out in the water, sometimes lifeguards would arrive on jet skis to help out that way. This was in Virginia Beach when I was growing up. The lifeguards were mostly teenagers. As I got older, a few were friends. I know how much they were paid. It was not enough for their work. People in riptides can end up creating lifeguard rescues. If you're in one, you swim and swim and swim and just end up further out in the ocean, except that now you're also exhausted and alone and kind of panicky. These are not the ingredients for a peaceful swim. They are the ingredients for a rescue. Much about the world these days has us exhausted, feeling alone, and kind of panicky. The events of the day or of the hour on some days feel like they keep pulling us out into deeper and deeper water, and no amount of swimming can bring us closer to the shore where we might find some peace and respite and a cool drink on a sunny day. Having read bad news about this troubling development or that awful act, we return to the same source, sometimes rotely or out of bad habit, to see if the news has gotten any better, only to find that it usually has not, or even if it has, the relief is short-lived. For the profit of the industry is in the destructed and in the destroyed. And the media, social or otherwise, will soon market that through us again. The profit is in the panic, the power too. The same panic that can cause a swimmer struggling in a riptide to end up in worse shape, for they panic, they get tired, and their troubles only mount. As the signs on the shore instruct those caught up in a riptide say, the best thing to do is not panic. It's not going to help you or anyone. And indeed, that or something like it is often the first urging of the lifeguard who reaches the struggling swimmer. Don't panic. I've got you. Just breathe. Instead, that which we often turn to in order to stay aware of important news encourages us to panic. The leaders they cover do as well, for their power is in our panic. It's that to which their entire product is oriented. It would be like the lifeguard reaching the struggling swimmer and saying, "You think this is bad, just wait to see how far you have to swim in." Or the sign saying, "If caught in a riptide, flail." Those are indeed both natural responses, but they're not helpful ones. They're not the healthy ones. Even if they're what we are told to do, we should never do them, and instead engage important news of these days mindfully, on our terms, of our agencies, in ways that allow us to consume without being consumed. It is healthy to control how we consume such a relentless array of bitter news, as well as to control how we allow others to sometimes sweep us up in its anxiety. It is healthy to draw boundaries around our inner peace and outward compassion, and know that there are times to focus on concerns and action and discussion, and times to focus on leisure and community and joy. Those boundaries are the only things to keep us from being consumed by that which ought not to be anywhere, but especially at the center of our spirit. There are times to march, and there are times to pray, and there are times to sit in a park with a friend. And all those times are needed, though each in excess diminishes us. I think there was a little bit of that yearning for balance on display on Friday night, when many viewed the return of Artemis II to Earth on TV. Like so many others, I was captivated by the coverage of that spacecraft that had traveled to the far side of the moon and back, splashing down in the ocean, although I heard some guy say there's no far side of the moon, there's just a moon, it's all relative, so you know what I'm saying. The various countdowns, the assurances that all was going well, even though so much needed to happen in exactly the right way, the long wait through the silence, and then the astronaut's voice broadcasting. Rather matter-of-factly, I thought that they were fine after passing through, as I understand it, 5,000 degrees of heat at 25,000 miles an hour. I would have been shouting that, "Oh my God, we're still alive!" But then again, I'm not an astronaut, which is probably a good thing. Although if they ever had an open seat on one of those things, I'd jump on it and trust that things would go well. It's strange what we do and not do. I have no desire to parachute out of a plane. I would never get in a submarine and go to the bottom of the ocean. I have never been skiing, and at this point in my life, I don't think I'm gonna. But I'd get on a rocket ship and go into space. Not necessarily, however, the one in Project Hail Mary, which was decidedly more stressful to watch than even the return of Artemis II, even though it was fiction. No spoilers here, just that it's a profound movie and visually stunning and well acted and very stressful. There was relief, though, when Artemis II landed safely in the ocean and eventually the astronauts came out. During the coverage, I was struck by how often the speakers spoke of this being this unifying event. Some even spoke in different ways of everything awful that is happening and how divided we all are, and how something like this could remind us of our great unity and common destiny. That seems to happen when people leave Earth and then talk about Earth. It seems like from that vantage point, our fundamental oneness, our elemental interconnectedness becomes obvious and moving. The faith, the fact that we are one people on the only earth we'll ever know for as long as we are graced with breath, seems to become this prophet's reminder when those scientists speak of such things in their science-y ways. I love how, even though their words are probably planned, in the moment something catches in their voices. There's sometimes a pause as they put human meaning into this scientific endeavor. I love those pauses. In prayer, that's when God speaks. In science, maybe that's when insight is seeded. I think it's all the same, really, reverence, wonder, and a sacred pause when something deeper than our thoughts and feelings arrests us in this speechless state, even for just a second. A sense is communicated in that silence that is so much deeper than words. There were a few times in the coverage that we watched when they were all quiet, and we just watched the Artemis astronauts doing their thing. Those breaks were lovely. When they talked, though, those commentators were speaking to the sweetness that life can afford us, not to the absence of bitterness that life also affords us. Theirs was not the urging to turn forever from that which is immoral and demands our engagement, but it was a reminder that there is always the good, too. There is always the hopeful, the beautiful, the inspiring, and the wondrous. There are always and everywhere groups of good people making incredible things happening. Maybe not travel to the moon, but travel beyond the breathless negativities and profanities that can consume us if we're not careful and mindful and resistant. The whole story and the way it was covered showed us that the sweetness of life exists alongside the bitter, but that if we only fight the bitter without enjoying the sweet, we will tire and become alone and succumb to the deep waters of anxiety and panic and negativity. If not in body, then in spirit, we will become the joyless, outraged, and worried product that is sold through our often online engagements. And so theirs was really a reminder that should we get caught up in those negative currents that seek to draw us away from our solid ground and our communities and the peace and beauty that is of this world, we must first not panic. And then we must swim not against them for their wind, but swim parallel to the shore until we're out of their grip, at which time we can swim back in much more easily. We should view them from the side, if you will. Know that they are there and know that they can sweep us up, and know that when they have done so, we must balance our perspective with that of others. We can't run from them, but instead move with them until they lose their grip on us, which they'll never do if we only fight them, but they will if we're crafty and not panicked, but intentional and disciplined, and willing to maybe even swim a little further out if it means finding freedom soon thereafter. When the bitter complicates our enjoyment of these incredible gifts of life and of one another, gifts that come for us just once, we must remember the sweet, the good, the true, and the hopeful. We can angle ourselves to swim in those waters and to eventually swim through them to the shore that awaits with its rest and peace and ice cream and music. There we can nap and think and eat and dance and witness others at the same play, knowing a world not absent of the bitter but very much present with the sweet. A world not absent of evil, but a world very much present with the good. A world not absent of many things to do, of many currents of which to be wary and resistant, but a world also not absent opportunities to be at peace with ourselves and one another. The path here is the same as that sign on the shore. Don't panic and swim sideways until you're out of the current. And once there, go back to solid ground. Rest, eat, drink, and share a good story or two. The alternative to don't panic and swim sideways is to wait for a lifeguard to come save us. I wouldn't advise that. We can save one another. Humans can save humans. We can be each other's keepers. We can help each other out. We can celebrate each other and lift one another up and receive each other on the shore with a towel and a Coke. Maybe someone will save us, but I kind of doubt it. We are who we have, and that is more than enough to withstand the bitter and to grow the sweet and to live full, balanced, and meaningful lives together. Together we can be confident and not panicky in today's world. We can be mindful and not reactive. We can be renewed and not exhausted. We can help each other out of the currents to face them from the shore as one and help keep others out of them as well. May it be so, and amen. And at the end of our hour, we extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light carries us until we gather again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.